Welcome to the Endurance Horse Podcast, where endurance riders from all across the globe gather, sharing their stories, goals, and progress as they train for and compete in endurance events at every level. So kick off your shoes, pull up a chair, and listen as we gather around the virtual campfire and listen to friends from across the world.
Horses? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, let's try this again.
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. It's working. So today on the podcast, we're welcoming Maribel Paulson, and she is with the AERC Young Riders Program. So I saw a post where you were asking for painted ponies. So we're going to talk about the painted ponies pretty soon, and we're going to talk about the young riders. But first, I always ask, how did you get into horses?
Well, good morning, and it's the Junior and Young Rider Committee, and I got into horses. My dad grew up on a ranch and loved horses, and I don't remember ever not loving horses. And finally, I was given one for my 13th birthday, and it all went from there. My ex-husband came home one day, and we had a horse farm, and he came home one day, and he said, "These people ride point to point, 250 miles." At the time, it was from the El Paso area to the Lordsburg area or somewhere out there. And they shuttle the trailers, and they don't come back for 5 days. And I said, well, they've got to be crazy. And here I am, 47 years later, still doing that. You know, so I guess who's crazy now?
The bug bit you, if it is like in a good way. So tell me about your horse or one of your horses before we move on.
Well, I've had several very good mares, and I've had quite a few good horses, but my favorites were my 3 chestnut mares. And the one that I have now is Accomplish Your Dreams, and we bought her from Michelle Morgan at Mandolin Hill, and she's 14 now, and I have about 3,000 miles on her, so not as much as the previous horse, but she's taken care of me through a broken hip and all kinds of troubles, so I don't know what I'd do without her.
Oh, she sounds sweet. That is so funny, though, because some people prefer mares and some don't. I literally had an interview this morning for my other podcast, and that was when it was an author, and one of the things she was saying was the complexities of learning a mare after having a gelding first. And so she was like, they are different, and people don't want to hear that generalization, but I think they are different a little bit, and you have to be able to negotiate a mare, I think.
I think they're different, too, but I think they're smarter, and I think they take better care of themselves. That's just my opinion. And of course, you know, mine were all red, you know, so they certainly have their opinion, you know, but I don't know. I guess I do too. So it's a good mix.
I have a couple of red mares. I would have to say in there that they are both extremely different from each other, though. One is very golden retriever, would like to live in the house. Please don't ever leave me. Like she would follow you like a puppy. I mean, she's amazing. And the other one is a little aloof, and you know, maybe I like people right now, maybe not. You know, they're just so different, and they're sisters. So.
Oh my goodness! Well, 2 of my red mares were like that also. One was aloof, and one was like a big puppy. You know, so the last 2.
So we are about to push on to the program, but before we do, tell me about one of your favorite rides with endurance and what makes you stay motivated for over 40 years to keep doing it.
One of my favorite rides has to be Spanish Peaks. The day we rode over the wall was an absolutely unforgettable day. I'm so glad I could take my grandson to that. And what keeps me doing it? I love the people. I love the purity of the competition. I love the scenery. The vistas never get old. And I like the bond that you have with your horse, all those hours in the saddle and camping with them tied right outside your trailer. And it's just hard to do that in any other discipline.
For sure. I had a picture here that I saw online that you posted of a young lady holding a painted pony. And can you tell me about this program, the committee you're on, and how painted ponies fit into that?
I rode with my grandson, and I did not say that I rode with him for about 8 years. And it was some of the best times in my life. And then the president of AERC, Nick Kohut, asked me if I would be head of the junior committee. And it took me a good long time to accept. But once I did, I asked one of the other juniors in the Southwest, what would you like to see in AERC? And she said, we would like something to do at the convention. There's nothing for kids to do at the convention. And so that's what started me on the events at the convention. And we've had 2. And I knew of several people who had painted ponies stored, back in their shed that they weren't even sure, if they were still there. And I thought maybe those would make kind of nice things to raffle off for the kids. And so I started asking around, and I was given quite a few, and they seemed well received. And then I have a wonderful junior young rider committee, and one of them, Elizabeth Farina, took the ball and ran with it and hosted a junior event at the USA Northeast Team Challenge, and had a glow ride and had a shopping trip with a 10% discount to a saddle shop, and had a hospitality tent, and the kids helped out crewing for the teams that were competing. And she wants to do that again at national championships next spring in the Southeast. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And quite a few of us started talking about things. One thing that came up was a standalone BC for juniors that would be only with vet score. It wouldn't take into account their time or their weight. And I thought these ponies would make a good award for that, because there's something substantial and something that people treasure, and you'd be surprised how many people have been hanging on to them for years. So it's an absolutely free thing, and I don't want anybody to give them unless they, are done with them. But they make for very nice gifts, and I offer to pick them up or pay the postage, and it doesn't cost AERC anything. So that's what this last push was about, because I've only got 3 left, so I wanted to make sure we could follow through with the convention and with the standalone BC award. Some other of my committee members are going to have like an experimental junior event in Oklahoma and another one in Arizona. And so we're trying to figure out new things to do. And at the national championship that's going to be this month in Oregon, they're going to have an ice cream social and a speaker, a junior who's riding overseas and stuff. So we're trying to, the momentum seems to be picking up, and we're trying to just run with it while we can.
Before we get away from the ponies, do you have a plan on how people could get them to you so that people outside of your vicinity could maybe pack and go to UPS and ship them to you?
Yes, and several people are. And I'm happy to, if you can reach me on Messenger, Maribel Paulson, that's how people have been so far. Or if my email, if you would like my address, is maribelp@localnet.com. And I believe I'm in the Endurance News under Southwest Regional Director and Junior Young Rider Committee Chair. So you can check with me about that, and that'd be wonderful. And like I said, I'm happy to reimburse postage.
Okay.
How generous people are being.
What else can you tell me about the Junior Young Rider Committee for AERC? So what is the mission for it and the purpose?
Well, the biggest thing I like to aim for is camaraderie with the kids, because it seems like when they're together, it gives them a stronger bond than when they're following their grandparents around, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the convention, when they could get together with other kids, they seem to really enjoy it, and at the rides. We're trying to up numbers in membership. A lot of endurance riders are aging out. So we're trying to bring in new people. We are starting to look at pony clubs in areas to see if we can distribute ride flyers to them. So maybe some kids who have horses already might want to try out an intro or an LD.
Fabulous.
We're going to try to. I've got some flyers going to some riding stables and trail riding clubs in Oklahoma right now. So there's really a lot that we can still do that we don't think about.
I remember AERC had I want to say it was like a thing for a year or something where it was each one bring one kind of a thing. And I think that's a great thing to encourage, is if each person try to introduce a new person to the sport, then that could grow it exponentially. But like my husband said, pretty much what you said, he said, it is a sport that doesn't have a lot of young people coming into it. I mean, it's great. We all are so happy when we see young riders, but
right.
I was going to suggest 4-H, but you're right, Pony Club, but also 4-H. And one of the things I suggested was to be a speaker, and even a young person being a speaker at a 4-H group about what endurance is. And with all this great technology we all have now, they could make a PowerPoint, give a speech to another group of young people. I mean, I think if you kind of repeated that process throughout the country, we could maybe drum up some new young riders so they can carry the sport in the future.
Well, those are all very good ideas. And I'm sure it depends on the region. I've gone to the Backcountry Horsemen's Association meetings and tried to recruit people to, even if they aren't interested in riding, to help pulse and stuff like that. And they just weren't interested. And some of in this area, and some of the 4-H groups I have heard in Oklahoma are not horse related at all. They're more into cooking and debate right now. So maybe it just depends on your area.
I think it really does, because I don't know if it's still this way, because this was many years ago. When I grew up in Ohio, when you were in 4-H, you joined a subject-specific club. So I joined a horse club. So the whole horse club, for 4-H, and there were many of them. This was in Trumbull County, Ohio. And then when my cousins were they were in a dog club, and they also did placings 1st through 10th. And there were no repeats of 1st or 2nd or anything like that. So when we came to Wisconsin, there are no subject-specific clubs. You join almost, I would say, like a neighborhood or a area club, like for a town. And everybody in that club does whatever they do. And so I wonder if when I was in Ohio, if that was a unique thing. But, honestly, 4-H is struggling also. So it's shrinking.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school back in the 60s, we had a horse club, and they threw a bunch of horses in a truck and took us to the mountains, and we had horse shows and gymkhanas. It was a very strong, but there's nothing like that now, unfortunately. But I tried looking for 4-H, and maybe you can help me with this. I tried looking for 4-H clubs in the area, and I put flyers in feed stores and for my ride, and people don't do flyers. Everything's online, So
it's true, but you never know with a flyer, because I've gone to events that I saw, in a gas station. So, I mean, I would say it's not pointless, because that is one of my mainstay questions that I ask people is, how did you find out? And granted, this was decades ago that they're talking about, but many of them said, I saw a flyer,
Wonderful. And if you can drag out just a couple more, it's worth it.
I think that's definitely something we need to brainstorm about in this community. Is think about it as like it's a shrinking pool. On this podcast and on my other podcast, the War Horse Journal podcast, it has come up a couple times from the people I've talked to. That is a shrinking amount of kids that are, and a couple different people I've interviewed attributed a lot to kids not really being hungry for something anymore, because they are so fed on their computers and their devices that they're not bored enough to go out and spend the day at the barn. But I've heard a couple people convey that to me, and I don't know how we overcome that.
My grandson started riding with me because his mother, passed away from cancer. And we had all the horses and all the tack and all the rigs and, and the connections. And we just threw him in the truck and went. I mean, but, it would be hard, I think, for people to start from scratch with all of that, for kids as much as they change. Because we had it all, and to get 2 horses that can do endurance, I imagine it's more of a challenge sometimes than people are willing to undertake. Getting sponsorships for juniors riding for free at these rides that we're experimenting with. So that can't hurt.
It can only help. And, I think maybe you can get yourself a little army of these young people to start promoting endurance more, on Instagram, on Facebook or something, and sharing the sport that way, because it's true. I mean, all the young kids are not on Facebook,
Right.
And, social media can be our friend. And, it's wonderful that AERC has a youth committee, and it sounds like you're doing beautiful things for it.
At some point, I was thinking about selling tickets to raffle off a pony to the general membership, and then having that in a fund to sponsor some kids, right? But for now, the format we have at the convention is we'll have a speaker, and then they don't buy raffle tickets. They just put their name on a slip of paper, and we draw from the kids who are at the event. And then 3 speakers, 3 sets of raffles, and then the kids go home with a lot of stuff. It's been wonderful about, fly masks and packs, saddled packs for the rides, and just all kinds of wonderful stuff. And one lady told me she was going to donate a bunch of new tack yesterday. It hasn't evolved. Right now, I'm trying to keep it kind of simple to see what works. But there is a plan of the juniors going around and selling tickets to maybe one of the extra nice ponies for everybody there at the convention to maybe raise some money for sponsoring kids.
Is there anything you would like to address that I did not ask?
I think I got it all. I think you got it all. So the ponies are to raffle off at the convention for the junior event, and we feed them as well. And then the ponies are also for possibly gifts or prizes for the standalone BCs at rides, and then possibly to raffle off for dollar tickets at the convention to create the fund for the juniors and young riders to ride for free. So that's the whole thing about the ponies.
Keep doing the flyers, keep doing all the wonderful things you're volunteering to do, and growing this sport into the future, because I think we all want to see it grow and do well. As we know, the things are tight in the world right now in general. Somebody did just mention to me the other day that in general they think even at the county fairs there's fewer horses there, the 4-H and the draft horses, and it just seems like everybody, every breed, every discipline, they're all trying to reach for the same group of horses and people,
Our society is more urban than it used to be.
That's it in a nutshell. Yeah.
And it's y'all are hanging on, tooth and nail, because we don't want to see this beautiful thing vanish. So we're trying. Really appreciate your time and the nice conversation. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me today. And it's almost the weekend. I hope you get lots of miles in.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I hope you do too. And I appreciate all your help.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.